My name is Valerie Hensley. I'm 27 years old, and about 7 months ago, my boyfriend tried to destroy 2.5 years of my life with a shrug emoji. Last Saturday, I graduated with honors with my master's degree in structural engineering. My mom cried during the ceremony. My advisor shook my hand for so long it became uncomfortable. I ate half a sheet cake alone that night while still wearing my graduation dress because I was too exhausted to change clothes. Life should have been simple. But when people ask about graduation, I don't tell them about the ceremony. I tell them about the laptop. My ex-boyfriend Mason and I had been together for 18 months. We didn't officially live together, but we had keys to each other's apartments. He worked pharmaceutical sales and made far more money than I did as a graduate student living on stipends, tutoring income, and caffeine. Money itself wasn't the problem. The way he treated my ambitions was, must be nice, getting paid to sit around reading all day. When you get a real job, maybe we can finally travel. You care more about concrete than people. He'd laugh after saying those things, and I kept pretending jokes couldn't cut. My thesis consumed 8 months of my life. Structural analysis modeling for seismic retrofit of mid-rise concrete buildings. Yes, boring. Painfully boring. But it was my boring. 146 pages. Thousands of simulations. Endless revisions. 2.5 years of graduate work compressed into charts, equations, coffee stains, and sleep deprivation. Everything lived on my laptop, a refurbished ThinkPad X1 Carbon I bought used for $1,100. That laptop wasn't just a device. It was my office, my lab, my future. Because I'm an engineer and because I trust failure more than optimism, I had backups, cloud synchronization through university storage, weekly USB backups stored in my lab drawer, automatic sync every save. Redundancy wasn't paranoia. It was survival. 3 days before my thesis deadline, I was in the engineering library doing final formatting. My phone buzzed. A text from Mason. Hey, don't be mad, but I accidentally threw out your laptop. It was on your kitchen counter, and I thought it was that old one you said you were getting rid of. Oops. I read it once. Twice. Then again. Everything around me got strangely quiet. 3 problems immediately hit me. First, I never told him I had an old laptop, because I didn't. Second, my ThinkPad had university stickers all over it, department decals, conference badges, notes stuck inside the case. It looked extremely alive. Third, my apartment dumpster emptied Tuesdays and Fridays. This was Wednesday, meaning if he'd thrown it away Tuesday afternoon, gone, crushed, unrecoverable. And then there was the shrug emoji. That stupid shrug emoji. I knew what reaction he expected. Panic, crying, begging, maybe even me running back home in hysterics. Because he knew exactly what was on that laptop. He'd watched me work through weekends. He'd complained when I brought it to dinner. 2 weeks earlier, he'd literally said, "That stupid thesis gets more attention than I do." My hands were shaking. Not from grief. From recognition. This wasn't carelessness. This felt personal. I walked out of the library, sat on the concrete stairs outside, and opened university cloud storage on my phone. Folder. Thesis. Models. Data. Presentations. Everything. Last sync. 10:03 p.m. I stared at the timestamp. 3 hours. I lost 3 hours. Not 2.5 years, 3 hours. I sat there for almost a minute, staring at the screen while students walked past carrying backpacks and coffee cups and normal problems. Then I replied, "Accidents happen, no worries." That was it. No answer, no accusation, no questions. Just calm. Too calm. 2 hours later. "You're not upset?" Then, "Your whole thesis was on there." Then, "Are you okay?" "Interesting." He sounded disappointed. I answered, "I'll figure it out." That night, I rebuilt the lost formatting, downloaded every file, cross-checked models, resubmitted figures, finished revisions. Submitted my thesis at 11:47 p.m. the night before deadline. 146 pages. On time. Then the next morning, instead of celebrating, I called apartment management. Do your dumpster areas have cameras? There was a pause. Yes. That single word changed everything. Because suddenly this wasn't about a broken relationship. It wasn't even about a laptop. It was about whether someone who claimed to love me had intentionally tried to destroy my future. And if he had, I wanted proof. Management told me they couldn't release dumpster footage without a police report. So I filed one. The officer read Mason's text, looked up at me, and said, "He threw out your thesis laptop and added a shrug emoji?" "Yes," he sighed. "People are something else." Report filed. Case number assigned. With that, the property manager pulled the footage, and there he was, Tuesday, 3:22 p.m. Mason walking alone toward the dumpster enclosure with my ThinkPad under one arm. No trash bag, no boxes, not confusion, just my laptop. He opened the lid, dropped it in, then wiped his hands together like he'd finished a chore. I watched the clip 3 times without blinking. That wasn't an accident. That was theater. For 5 days, I didn't contact him. During those 5 days, I defended my thesis. My committee passed me unanimously. One professor called my modeling elegant, which in engineering is basically fireworks. Meanwhile, Mason spiraled. "Are you ignoring me?" "This is immature." I said I was sorry. "My mom thinks you're being dramatic." "It's just a computer." Every text became documentation. On day 6, I invited him over. He arrived dressed nicely, hair styled, wearing the cologne I used to love. He thought this was reconciliation. I was at my kitchen table with a manila folder. His smile faded. "What's that?" "Sit down." I laid everything out. His text. A still from the security camera. The police report. The laptop receipt. The data recovery assessment. Then the quote showing full recovery could have cost $8,900 without my backups. Mason stared at the papers. "You went to the police over a laptop." "Over my thesis laptop. 3 days before deadline." "Yes. It was an accident." I pushed the still image toward him. "You carried it alone. You weren't cleaning. You weren't confused. You threw away one specific thing." His face drained. Then came the tears. "You're trying to ruin my life." "No. You tried to ruin mine." He called me cold. He called me calculated. Then he said the sentence that ended whatever grief I still had left. It was just a stupid degree anyway. I told him we were done. He left crying, then called me psycho from the hallway. Within hours, his mother called. "I understand you're upset," she said, "but involving police over a misunderstanding is unhinged. I have footage." Silence. Then, "Couples don't bring the law into arguments. Destroying property isn't an argument. And we're not a couple anymore." She hung up after calling me vindictive. Later, his father texted, "Drop this or you'll regret it." I forwarded that to my lawyer. Then something unexpected happened. Mason's younger sister, Clara, texted me. "I'm sorry. I'm not part of what they're doing. What he did was wrong." Then she told me about his college roommate. Years ago, during a fight, Mason threw the roommate's external hard drive into a bathtub. The roommate moved out the next day. Never pressed charges. A pattern. It is almost always a pattern. By then my thesis was submitted. My defense was finished. My degree was safe. Everything Mason tried to destroy survived because I planned for failure. And he didn't plan for cameras. 6 weeks later, I finally understood something nobody tells you about revenge. The satisfying part isn't the punishment. It's the paperwork. My lawyer sent Mason a demand letter. $1,100 for laptop replacement. $890 for the data recovery assessment I actually paid. $1,200 in legal consultation costs. Total, $3,190. We deliberately left out the $8,900 recovery estimate. My lawyer said, "Reasonable plaintiffs win cases. Angry ones make judges nervous." We gave him 30 days. His response arrived on day 28 through a lawyer hired by his parents. Counteroffer, $0. Their argument? The laptop had been disposed of in good faith. My police report constituted harassment, and pursuing consequences was emotionally abusive. Emotionally abusive. Interesting accusation from the man who threw my graduate work into industrial trash. We filed in small claims. Between filing and court, Mason made 2 last attempts. First, his mother somehow got my mom's number. Big mistake. My mother is a retired paralegal who believes consequences are a love language. Mason is a young man with his whole future ahead of him, his mother argued. My mom replied calmly. My daughter had a future too. Your son threw it away. Fortunately, she had backups. Click. Second, Mason emailed me, blocked everywhere else. The email was long, too long. He said I'd changed, said I became cold, said the real Valerie would have forgiven him. Then came the part that actually made me laugh. Destroying my laptop, apparently, had been a cry for help. A cry for help. He sabotaged my thesis and wanted sympathy because throwing expensive electronics into dumpsters was apparently emotional communication now. My lawyer told me not to answer, so I didn't. Court happened on a Wednesday morning. I arrived with a binder, tabbed sections, color-coded. Because yes, I'm still an engineer. Inside, texts, security stills, USB footage, police report, receipts, timeline, assessment documents, everything. Mason arrived with both parents and an advisor lawyer sitting behind him. The judge immediately noticed. Are you represented? No, Your Honor. Then your advisor can sit quietly. Beautiful start. I presented first. Simple, clear, no drama. Your Honor, my then boyfriend intentionally disposed of my laptop containing my graduate thesis 3 days before submission. Evidence includes text messages, surveillance footage, and documentation of financial damages. The judge reviewed the footage, watched Mason carry only the laptop, nothing else. Then he turned toward him. Why would you carry one item by itself to the dumpster if you believed it was ordinary trash? Mason froze. I was cleaning. The judge lifted the still frame. At 3:22 p.m., you walked directly to the dumpster carrying one object. Explain why. He looked toward his parents, then toward the floor. I thought it was old. The judge turned to me. Do you own another similar device? No, Your Honor. One laptop. He saw me use it almost daily. The judge leaned back, then said the sentence I'd spent months waiting to hear. I do not find the accident explanation credible. Mason's mother made a noise from the gallery. The judge looked once. Silence returned immediately. Judgment. Full amount. $3,190. He also noted on record that evidence strongly suggested intentional destruction. Public record. Permanent. Outside court, Mason's father followed me into the parking lot. You happy now? $3,000 over a computer? I looked at him. No, $3,000 over sabotage. He had nothing left to say. Later that evening, Clara texted me. For what it's worth, I think this was fair. Wrong family. Right person. A lot of people expected some dramatic ending, an invoice for $8,900, public humiliation, some huge cinematic moment. Truth? The $8,900, quote, stayed in my evidence binder. I never needed to send it. Seeing Mason realize that the only reason he wasn't staring at a nearly $10,000 disaster was because I backed up my files, that expression was expensive enough. The criminal case technically stayed open. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe something does. But now there's a record. A trail. Evidence. And if he ever does this again, someone won't be starting from zero. 3 weeks after court, I started my engineering job. New office, new projects, new ThinkPad. 3 cloud backup systems now. Trauma creates habits. Mason still hadn't paid when I'm telling this story. My lawyer already prepared wage garnishment paperwork. I hope he pays, not because I desperately need it. Though student loans are rude, I hope he pays, because paying means admitting what happened. And I think that's the part he hates most. People ask if I'm still angry. Not really. I was angry when I saw the shrug emoji. I was furious watching that security footage. But somewhere between defending my thesis, hearing the judge call his story unbelievable, and seeing my name published in the university repository, the anger changed shape. He threw my laptop in a dumpster. I graduated with honors. I think the scoreboard explains the rest.